So I have a pesky business problem,
Okay.
and I'm going to solve it with Gemini. And where do I start? I start in Excel, just as you said. This is where the power user lives. So in this version of Excel, I have a new add-in called the Gemini add-in that you can see in the top right-hand corner. And I'm going to build my solution using this. Now, the problem I have is I work for an online movie store where people can download movies. And I'd like to do an analysis to compare the sales of my online movies with what's happening at the box office. Is there some difference between my market and the classic box office market? So let's do that. Now, as it happens, IT have provisioned me with a data warehouse. So I have data in the data warehouse. Let's have a look at that. I can go in here and open the Gemini client, which is an add-in to Excel, pull data in from a database and say, okay, let's go to the sales table and pull in some sales. I'm going to pull in a few tables at the same time here. Now, some of these are preloaded. And here's the Gemini environment now up and running for us. Now, the interesting thing about this is, of course, that typically my data won't be perfect, so I may have to do some data cleaning, and if I need to do data cleaning, here's a data cleaning ribbon that has some functions for me. Now, this is a demo, so the data is perfect. We won't do any data cleaning today. But there's some interesting things here. Now, you said, very importantly, that the Excel power user also wants to work on a typical desktop machine. This is not running on a server. This is running backstage on a $1,000, 8 gig quad-core machine, the kind of thing I bought 2 weeks ago myself for just under $1,000. Let me show you what we can do here. Here's the media table, which shows all the different movies. I've got geography, I've got time. But look at purchases. This is every purchase that has been made in my online store. And let's just zoom in here and look at that number in the corner. Do you see it? 20 million rows in Excel, in an Excel add-in. Now, I think that's actually pretty extraordinary.
Yep.
Tomorrow, Amir Netz is going to be doing a session called New Horizons, where he's going to show you even more data. But I want to get across another point. It's not just about the volume of data. 20 million rows is great. You've got to be able to work with it. And the Excel user, watch this. This column story you were talking about enables us, for example, to sort. 20 million rows, sorted. I can flick over here and maybe do some filtering. Let's filter it down to the UK. 20 million rows, filtered. This is incredible functionality for the power user. They can interact with this data extremely easily in this environment. So this is great for the corporate data. I pulled in my data warehouse data. But of course, I also need to get the box office sales. They're not going to be in the data warehouse. They're published by Variety magazine or Billboard, and they're not going to put that in the data warehouse. So what I can do is flip through to Excel here, and I've downloaded this, say, from Variety magazine or Billboard. I can just copy that data, go back into the Gemini client and say, paste this in from the clipboard. And now I have my corporate data, and I have my the data that I've created myself on the desktop. So I'm now mashing up the corporate data with the data that I've acquired through whatever other means I need to. And we'll support many other data sources as part of that. So I've got my data. Now, as a power user in Excel, I need to analyze it. And where do Excel power users do their analysis? Well, they do it in pivot tables. So this is a pivot table solution as well. This is just classic Excel. This is not anything particularly new here. I'm just going to say OK and give me a pivot table. Now in Gemini we have some really cool pivot tables that we can handle. So for example, let me take the number of tickets sold from the box office. Pull that into the pivot table. Now I'm going to pull in the media, and watch the bottom right-hand side of the screen as I pull in the media by genre. You see that? We infer a relationship between the two tables. We know what you're trying to do, so we can understand the relationship. Let's also get in here and look at, say, the purchases from my business and say, here's the number of purchases that people have downloaded. So now I've got my data mashed up together, my corporate data and my personal data. And I can say, for example, let's take a pivot chart of that so that I can compare the two. Now, as it happens, they're completely out of scale. I've got like 3 billion cinema tickets sold over the years. I've only got 20 million sales from my business. So here's what I can do. I can take this data and just say, show it as a percentage of total. And now I get a better comparison. I can see, for example, that action adventure does much better in the box office than in my online sales. I can see that thrillers do rather better on my online sales than in the box office. But of course, what I'd really like to do is slice and dice this and get some other views of it. So let's do that. Let's flip in here and add a new feature. And this is a new feature in Excel that is specifically made for Gemini, but it's also available to other Excel users. I'm going to pull in category. and add what we call, oops, sorry, wrong one there. Let me do this. Let's drag in category here and create what we call a slicer by category. I can also come in here and say, well, in addition to that, I'd also like to see the rating. And now we can see the way they kind of rearrange themselves there. Very easy to use and very kind of flexible. I can also, of course, pull in year, and I could pull in month. And let's also grab geography and take that in the vertical. So now everything's rearranged for me, and I've got a nice visual view. And I can start to do analysis such as, well, let's look at sales in the UK. Turns out that the patterns of sales in the UK are substantially different. Let's have a look at sales in Canada, and it turns out that sales in Canada are substantially different too. I can also look at sales by year. Notice this, for example, the slicer for 2006 gives me access to all the months. But these slicers are related. They know about each other. If I look at 2008, you'll see that only the first 6 months are available, and I can't slice by the other 6 months because I don't have data for that period yet. So the slicers are intelligent and interactive and also give me this nice visual layout of the data. So here I am, I've created this, and what have I created? You saw the relationships appearing in the corner. Well, basically what I've created under here, you guys recognize it, I've created a star schema. But as an Excel power user, I'm just creating an analysis.